Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about something people are afraid to talk about. Not because it's a fantasy, but because it's a reality too dark, too dangerous, too explosive to imagine, yet it exists. Tensions, history, pride, pain, blood. When two nations carry decades of scars, every silence is loaded, every stare a threat, and every breath a countdown. In this corner, India, a regional giant with 4 billion hearts beating with nationalism, a nuclear arsenal ticking beneath its soil, a military hardened by generations of border conflict and insurgency. In the other corner, Pakistan, born in division, bred in survival, often playing the smaller dog, but a dog that's been cornered for too long. Now imagine this, 24 hours, that's all it takes. A single sunrise to sunset where war isn't just a threat, it's action. Preemptive, precise, ruthless, the moment a green signal blinks in a high-security war room in New Delhi, the entire subcontinent tilts toward destruction. Indian satellites already have complete coverage. They know where every key radar station is, every nuclear facility, every underground command post. They've been watching, mapping, waiting. As the order goes out, it's not chaos, it's a symphony. The Indian Air Force, with over 700 aircraft, takes the skies like a storm. Su-30 MKIs, Rafales, Jaguars, they aren't flying, they're hunting, first targets, airfields. Pakistan's ability to retaliate is gone within the first 90 minutes. Runways are cratered, control towers vaporized. Fuel depots ignited. Before the first hour ends, Pakistan's air response capability is crippled, and they wouldn't even know which base was hit first. Meanwhile, on the ground, the Indian army doesn't walk. They roll in with armor that cuts through defenses like blades. T-90 tanks thunder through the border gaps of Punjab and Rajasthan. Artillery from Kargil to Kashmir pounds key Pakistani outposts into submission. But it's not about territory. It's about shock. Psychological collapse. Every strategic communication point, every supply route, every bridge that matters is ash, and while all this rages, there's another front, cyber. India's electronic warfare units are already inside the network. Power grids shut down, mobile towers fail, banking systems freeze, cities plunge into darkness and silence, people can't call, leaders can't command. Panic spreads before the enemy even sees an Indian soldier. But the worst isn't the noise, it's the silence, because that's when the missiles rise. India has one of the world's most sophisticated missile arsenals. BrahMos cruise missiles launched from land, sea, and air close in on every command post, naval base, and defense hub deep inside Pakistani territory. The missiles don't knock. They vaporize, and if there's a counter-strike, that's when India's ballistic missile defense lights up. Prithvi, Akash, Barak interceptors kick in with surgical precision. What does slip through meets hardened bunkers, shielded cities, emergency protocols years in the making. India doesn't just strike, it absorbs. This is not a war that would need a week. It doesn't need diplomacy. It doesn't even need total mobilization, just resolve, just a trigger, a moment, a push. Now don't get me wrong. This isn't about arrogance. It's not about war lust. It's about a truth no one wants to say out loud, that in the world we live in, power is not just about strength, it's about preparation. Pakistan may have teeth, but India has jaws. And when you push a giant long enough, don't be surprised when it finally stops holding back. Because in war, the first strike wins. And if the moment ever comes when words fail, treaties crumble, and diplomacy dies in the dark, India has the ability to finish what others start. Not in a week, not in a month, in a day, in 24 hours. India's advanced air superiority enables crippling Pakistan's defenses within the first hour because over the years, India has meticulously built one of the largest and most technologically sophisticated air forces in the world. With a fleet of over 700 aircraft, including multi-role fighters like the Su-30 MKI, Rafale, Mirage 2000, and the indigenously developed Tejas, the Indian Air Force possesses not just numbers but strategic depth and precision firepower. These aircraft are not just tools of defense. They are offensive weapons capable of initiating a full-scale assault with breathtaking speed and coordination. The key to a successful first-hour crippling operation lies in preparation, intelligence, and execution. India's reconnaissance and surveillance capabilities, bolstered by satellites such as the RISAT and Cartosat series, provide real-time imaging and tracking of enemy movement and infrastructure. This constant watch has allowed Indian planners to build detailed maps of Pakistan's radar installations, air bases, SEM sites, and command centers. The first wave of airstrikes would be executed with chilling precision. Rafale jets, equipped with Scalp air-to-ground cruise missiles and Meteor air-to-air missiles, would take the lead in neutralizing long-range threats and hardened bunkers. Meanwhile, Su-30 MKI would fly deep into enemy territory using terrain, following flight paths and electronic countermeasures to remain undetected while they strike key runways and fuel storage facilities. Simultaneously, Mirage 2000s, proven in surgical strike scenarios, would target air defense systems and interceptors before they even leave the ground. The goal is to establish immediate air dominance, which means not just fighting off enemy aircraft, but denying them the ability to take off in the first place. Within the first 15 to 20 minutes, runways at key Pakistani airbases like Sargodha, Masroor, and PF Base Musharraf would be rendered unusable using specialized runway-penetrating munition. These are designed not to just crater the surface, but to cause deep structural damage that takes days or even weeks to repair. Fuel depots would erupt in towering infernos, causing a cascading effect on Pakistan's ability to launch or refuel aircraft. But the strikes don't stop at hardware. India's airborne warning and control systems hover at a safe distance, coordinating the entire operation like an orchestra conductor. They track every movement, every radar pulse, every signal. Pakistani jets that do manage to scramble are immediately painted and engaged by Indian fighters long before they pose any real threat. The skies are not just being contested, they are being cleared. Electronic warfare squadrons like the Sukhoi, equipped units and ground-based systems jam enemy communications and radar, creating pockets of blindness across the Pakistani air defense grid. These blackouts are deliberate, timed, and ruthless. It creates a psychological vacuum for Pakistani pilots and commanders, who are forced to make decisions in the dark while facing an onslaught from a clearly superior force. Even the drones are part of the strategy. India's fleet of Heron and indigenous UAV provide constant feeds from enemy territory, identifying targets of opportunity and assisting real-time mission updates. This reduces dependency on human intelligence and ensures that the mission adapts dynamically, responding to new threats as they arise. Airstrikes are not isolated incidents. They are part of a layered and synchronized doctrine. While manned aircraft take out strategic positions, drones loiter to confirm kills, assess damage, and identify secondary targets for follow-up strikes. Ground-based surfaced, where missile batteries ensure that if any retaliatory aircraft enter Indian airspace, they are swiftly taken out by Akash or Spider missile systems. All this is done within tightly coordinated timeframes, meaning that by the time international observers or analysts begin to piece together what's happening, the bulk of the aerial campaign has already been accomplished. The Indian Air Force's drills and war games have consistently simulated such rapid dominance scenarios. their capacity for aerial refueling, night operations, and cross-service coordination with the Indian Navy and Army further bolsters this one-hour blitz capability. Aircraft aren't just launched from northern bases. They surge from the east, west, and even aircraft carriers positioned in the Arabian Sea. This creates a three-dimensional envelope of attack, one which overwhelms Pakistan's defenses from every direction. The psychological factor is immense. When a nation loses its ability to command its own airspace, panic spreads through the ranks, from air traffic controllers to high command. The certainty of defeat begins to grow even before the battle is technically over. When you strip a country of its ability to see, to fly, and to communicate, the war is no longer just physical. It becomes mental. Fear replaces planning, confusion replaces orders, and in that chaos, dominance is achieved. Precision missile strikes would neutralize nuclear facilities and command infrastructure because India's missile capabilities have been developed with pinpoint accuracy, swift deployment, and maximum strategic impact in mind. The country's missile arsenal includes a wide range of systems from short-range tactical options to long-range intercontinental ballistic missiles, all integrated into a sophisticated command and control structure. At the heart of India's rapid strike doctrine lies the BrahMos supersonic cruise missile, capable of traveling at speeds nearly 3 times the speed of sound and delivering payloads with surgical precision. These missiles can be launched from land-based mobile platforms, naval warships, submarines, and aircraft, allowing for a multidimensional attack strategy that ensures no safe haven remains for the adversary's critical assets. In the event of a full-scale conflict, India's first priority would be to decapitate Pakistan's nuclear command and control infrastructure. Through detailed satellite imaging, signal intelligence, and years of reconnaissance, India already possesses a comprehensive map of Pakistan's nuclear installations, mobile launchers, and central command bunkers. These facilities, located in places like Kashab, Chashma, and Kahuta, would be struck simultaneously with precision-guided munitions. Each strike would be designed not to merely damage, but to destroy underground silos, disrupt enriched uranium storage, and eliminate the personnel tasked with command execution. The strikes would be launched in a wave pattern, ensuring redundancy, with follow-up attacks ready to neutralize any facility that survives the initial assault. Strategic bombers and ground-launched missiles would work in tandem. The Nirbhay subsonic cruise missile, designed for stealth and low-level flight, would weave through radar gaps to strike deep inside Pakistani territory. At the same time, the Agni-series ballistic missiles, capable of carrying both conventional and nuclear payloads, provide the option to hit fortified underground bunkers with high-penetration warheads. This is not just a show of force. It is a calculated strategy to render Pakistan's nuclear retaliatory options inert before they can be activated. The command infrastructure that oversees the launch protocols of nuclear weapons is equally vulnerable. Headquarters in Rawalpindi, ISI control centers, and military communication hubs would be among the first to be targeted. The use of electronic and cyber warfare would amplify the effectiveness of these missile strikes. Disabling early warning systems, disrupting secure communications, and corrupting data flow would create blind spots and delay Pakistan's ability to recognize and respond to incoming threats. In many cases, by the time a radar blip is understood to be a real missile, the explosion has already occurred. This fusion of physical and digital warfare ensures that no single system functions in isolation, and that every Pakistani attempt to launch a counterstrike is disoriented, delayed, or outright aborted. India's defense apparatus also includes real-time strike verification systems, where satellite imagery, drone surveillance, and ground intelligence feed into a central combat management center. This allows commanders to confirm mission success instantly and redirect missiles to secondary targets if needed. Naval power also plays a role in this scenario. The Indian Navy's stealth destroyers and nuclear submarines carry vertical launch systems capable of firing missiles at high-altitude inland targets. From positions in the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, these vessels can launch BrahMos missiles that strike with minimal warning. In a coordinated barrage, Pakistan's coastal radar systems would be disabled just minutes before the missiles arrive, creating a fatal delay in response. Air-launched variants of these missiles, fired from Su-30 MKI aircraft, would target mobile launch vehicles attempting to move into position, eliminating the possibility of a second strike capability from the Pakistani side. India's Intelligence Bureau and RAW have spent decades cultivating assets that monitor the movement of Pakistan's nuclear assets. These eyes on the ground provide the vital human intelligence that technology alone cannot deliver, ensuring that decoys are ignored and real targets are prioritized. The combination of geospatial, signals, and human intelligence means the strike list is not theoretical. It is active, current, and precise down to the meter. The overall plan follows the doctrine of cold start, only with a far more aggressive reach. It's not about crossing borders with troops first. It's about eliminating the enemy's ability to retaliate even before they know they've been hit. When every launch site, every command tunnel, every nuclear technician's location is accounted for and struck in tandem, the entire retaliatory architecture collapses under its own weight. Ground forces equipped with modern armor can penetrate deep into Pakistani territory swiftly because India's armored divisions have been structured, trained, and deployed with blitzkrieg precision in mind, emphasizing speed, shock, and overwhelming firepower. The Indian Army operates one of the largest and most battle-hardened land forces in the world, with decades of experience along hostile borders and an operational doctrine that combines mechanized mobility with infantry coordination and logistical self-sufficiency. Central to this is the formidable T-90 Bhishma main battle tank, which forms the backbone of India's armored corps. These tanks are not only equipped with night vision, explosive reactive armor, and 125 mm smoothbore cannons, but also integrated with advanced fire control systems that allow for pinpoint targeting even in poor visibility and high-speed engagements. Alongside them operate the Arjun MBT and BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicles, all of which have been extensively adapted to the varied terrains along the India-Pakistan frontier, whether in the plains of Punjab, the deserts of Rajasthan, or the semi-mountainous regions of Jammu. The Indian Army's strike course, specifically I Corps, Roman II Corps, and Roman 21 Corps, are designed for rapid offensive operations. They are already pre-deployed close to the border and maintain a state of readiness that allows for movement within hours, not days. The concept is not to get bogged down in not trench warfare, but to advance rapidly along multiple thrust corridors, bypassing resistance, encircling defensive pockets, and collapsing Pakistan's forward deployment zones. These corps are supported by massive artillery divisions such as the K-9 Vajra self-propelled guns and Pinaka multi-barrel rocket launchers, capable of laying down a devastating curtain of fire over wide areas, softening up enemy positions before tanks and mechanized infantry move in. The mobility of Indian forces has been greatly enhanced by improved road and rail infrastructure near the border, as well as dedicated military logistics corridors that can carry troops, ammunition, fuel, and spare parts into forward areas without delay. Air support plays a crucial role in making this penetration possible. As Indian Air Force jets dominate the skies, they provide close air support to advancing columns, take out enemy armor concentrations, and ensure that Pakistani troops are always under surveillance. Attack helicopters like the Apache H-64E and HL Rudra deliver anti-tank missiles and suppressive fire, allowing armored thrusts to proceed with fewer threats from enemy ground forces. The moment Pakistani lines begin to break, Indian paratroopers and special forces can be deployed behind enemy lines to disrupt reinforcements and destroy supply depots. These elite units are trained to operate autonomously, strike with surgical precision, and disappear before the enemy can mount a counter. The structure of Pakistan's terrain and infrastructure presents an opportunity rather than a hindrance. With limited depth between the border and major urban or military centers, Indian armored spearheads can reach strategic objectives in a matter of hours. Cities like Lahore and Sialkot are within striking distance of Indian armor within the first phase of the offensive. By avoiding direct assaults on fortified positions and instead encircling and cutting off critical logistic nodes, Indian ground forces can choke off the enemy's ability to resupply, communicate, or reinforce. These armored thrusts are further complemented by mechanized infantry that secures flanks, holds captured ground, and neutralizes any pockets of resistance. Engineering units follow closely to bridge canals, clear mines, and repair infrastructure to ensure the momentum continues uninterrupted. India's battlefield communication networks enable seamless coordination between armor, infantry, artillery, and air assets. Real-time updates are shared across the chain of command, allowing battlefield decisions to be made quickly and adjusted dynamically. GPS-guided munitions, drone reconnaissance, and satellite imagery ensure that every move is calculated, every strike deliberate, and every advance protected from ambushes. Logistics bases are set up in advance, and mobile supply units are embedded with advancing troops, ensuring fuel, food, ammunition, and medical aid are never out of reach. Psychologically, the sight of massive armored columns pushing through what were considered defensive perimeters demoralizes the opposing troops and disrupts command hierarchy. As the Indian ground forces establish control over critical transport hubs, airfields, and communication centers, the entire Pakistani command structure begins to fracture. Reinforcements are delayed, orders are lost in communication blackouts, and confusion spreads across the battlefield. The enemy is left trying to organize a coherent defense while their territory is being carved into isolated, encircled zones. Cyber warfare would dismantle Pakistan's communications, finance, and power grids because modern warfare is no longer fought solely with tanks, jets, and missiles. It's also waged silently, invisibly, through lines of code and digital infiltration. India has spent years developing its offensive cyber capabilities through a combination of state-sponsored units, strategic partnerships, and elite intelligence agencies. Organizations like the Defense Cyber Agency and the National Technical Research Organization have been building an arsenal of tools not just for defense, but for preemptive strikes designed to blind, confuse, and destabilize a hostile nation before a single bullet is fired. In a high-stakes conflict scenario, cyber warfare becomes one of the first fronts engaged, timed to coincide with physical operations to maximize chaos and paralysis. The first target in a cyber offensive is communication. Pakistan's military communication networks rely on both satellite links and fiber infrastructure, many of which are publicly mapped or have been compromised over time. Coordinated attacks would infiltrate these systems using malware, denial of service strategies, and data corruption programs to disrupt battlefield communication between command and operational units. Encryption protocols can be bypassed using zero-day exploits and backdoors planted through long-term surveillance. The result is a breakdown in real-time coordination among Pakistani troops, aircraft, and missile units. Orders are delayed, miscommunicated, or simply lost in transmission. High-level military and political leadership find themselves isolated in decision-making, unable to relay commands or confirm field status. That alone creates internal chaos, forcing the enemy to operate on guesswork and delayed reactions. Simultaneously, cyber attacks would be launched on Pakistan's national power grid. Unlike a purely kinetic strike that destroys infrastructure physically, cyber sabotage plunges cities into darkness silently, targeting control systems and grid synchronization points. Major cities like Islamabad, Lahore, and Karachi rely on interconnected electricity systems vulnerable to stucks, NIT-style malware designed to overload transformers, shut down relays, or misroute power. The chaos caused by sudden blackouts is multifaceted. Hospitals lose power or revert to limited generators. Air traffic control systems malfunction. Financial hubs grind to a halt, and ordinary citizens are thrown into panic. With no light, no air conditioning, no refrigeration, and no reliable digital access, the psychological impact on both military and civilian populations is immediate and far-reaching. Financial systems become another key target in the digital assault. Pakistan's interbank networks, including the central banking infrastructure, stock exchanges, and digital payment systems, are connected through digital frameworks that can be breached or disabled through advanced persistent threats. By initiating a simultaneous attack on banking databases, ATM networks, and payment gateways, the economy is thrown into temporary paralysis. People cannot withdraw cash. Salaries are frozen mid-transfer. Transactions bounce without explanation, and entire networks are forced offline. The government's ability to pay vendors, fund military movements, and maintain public order weakens dramatically. Cyber offensives may also include data manipulation, altering banking records, deleting tax files, or injecting false financial reports to sow confusion and distrust in the system itself. Beyond state systems, Pakistan's digital media and information landscape would be flooded with false narratives, panic-inducing messages, and deep-fake content. Fake news campaigns could simulate government announcements, fabricate military surrenders, or spread doctored videos showing compromised political leaders. In the fog of war, where verified information is scarce, these psychological cyber tools amplify distrust and fear. Even soldiers begin to question their chain of command, while civilians descend into panic over rumors of power failures, food shortages, or nuclear strikes. The destabilizing impact of information warfare cannot be overstated, especially when timed with real kinetic strikes that reinforce the illusion of national collapse. Internet infrastructure would be specifically targeted through attacks on submarine cable landing stations and internal routing points. Internet service providers, data centers, and mobile networks would face coordinated disruptions, leaving millions unable to access the web or communicate through mobile devices. While foreign journalists and international observers attempt to verify developments, the information blackout leaves a vacuum filled only by the chaos unleashed by carefully curated disinformation. Internal government systems, transport, railway signaling, water treatment facilities would be locked or corrupted, reducing the functionality of everyday life and interrupting the logistics needed for effective defense operations. India's cyber doctrine emphasizes both disruption and delay. By denying Pakistan the ability to respond, adapt, or even fully understand the scope of the attack, the cyber onslaught multiplies the effectiveness of the kinetic operations occurring simultaneously. The digital battlefield ensures that even in moments of retreat, Pakistani commanders cannot regroup effectively, cannot communicate orders, and cannot coordinate counteroffensives. Digital sabotage isn't loud, it doesn't leave behind rubble, but it cripples the spine of a nation that depends on code and connectivity to function in modern war. The silence of cyber warfare is deceptive because beneath that silence lies a storm of confusion, darkness, economic stasis, and informational disarray that leaves a nation vulnerable long before tanks roll across the border.
Thank you.